The young man poured well water onto the nearby field. No sooner had he stepped back than a dry grapevine began to grow at an astonishing rate. Unbeknownst to him, the young man drank a large gulp of water, thinking it was ordinary. But things quickly changed. He suddenly felt intense heat spreading through his body, and then a web of thick cloth wrapped around him. Moments later, he managed to tear the net, and to his amazement, his strength multiplied several times over. He was now able to lift stones weighing over 1,000 pounds. He realized that the well water held some secret, so he hurried back. He couldn't believe his eyes when he found huge clusters of grapes growing at the well's mouth. Excitedly, he picked a grape and tasted it. It was incredibly fragrant and gave him an immediate boost. He thought that if he sold them at the market, he would make a fortune. He gathered some clusters and went to the market. At first, people thought $80 a basket was a low price, but they were shocked when they found him selling them for $80 each. They thought he had lost his mind to sell fruit at such a price, so he suggested they taste them before buying. One man, who suspected that these clusters possessed some magic, decided to taste them. He ate one grape, and suddenly he felt as if he were flying. The back pain that had plagued him for years vanished. He immediately bought 5 bunches of grapes. The others, thinking it was a trick, tasted one and were stunned by its deliciousness. They began scrambling to buy bunches. At that moment, a curious servant passed by and bought a bunch to give to the billionaire. After eating it, the billionaire felt his breathing become much easier, and to his surprise, his asthma disappeared. He ordered the servant to buy all the bunches, but the young man had already sold them all. To earn more money, he worked all night, plowing 2 plots of land, planting various vegetables, and watering them with well water. After a deep sleep, the vegetables grew at an astonishing rate. The next day, the young man awoke to find the field overflowing with enormous tomatoes. While he waited to mock him, the servant had already appeared. He had come to buy grapes, but after tasting the tomatoes, he found them incredibly delicious and bought them all. The servant introduced himself as the manager of a luxury hotel owned by a billionaire. Upon learning that the young man had 2,000 pounds of tomatoes, he immediately transferred $40,000 to him. The shopkeeper next door stood bewildered. Who buys tomatoes? The young man realized he was on his way to making a fortune. But suddenly a picture circulated in his class group, mocking him for working as a fruit and vegetable vendor instead of finding a respectable job. He knew they were just seeking attention, so he sent them a screenshot of his earnings that day, shocking everyone. Those who had mocked him began calling, asking to meet, but he hung up immediately. Moments later, the phone rang again. This time, it was the popular girl at school, reminding him that she was well-mannered and the only one who had defended him when he was bullied. After learning he was selling vegetables, she suggested a way to help him. Her uncle owned a hotel. The young man realized she was sincere in her desire to work, so he decided to repay her kindness and agreed to sell all his vegetables to her uncle. After setting a date, the young man began thinking about what vegetables to plant next. To keep the well water secret, he decided to plant cucumbers. The next day, the young man brought the cucumbers to the market as promised. The popular girl arrived and was very pleased with the quality. But when she saw the price, her eyes widened in astonishment. $50 each, dozens of times more expensive than usual. The young man explained that these were special cucumbers and suggested. He tried one, and after tasting it, he was amazed by its sweetness. He was about to buy the whole lot when a luxury car suddenly stopped. It was his wealthy sister, and she had come to mock him. She said she would take him home if he admitted his mistakes and stopped selling vegetables. But the young man refused to go back. He remembered how his sisters had betrayed him in his past life and how his adopted brother had treated him like family. Now, thanks to the well water, he wouldn't allow them to interfere in his cucumber business. At first, they thought he was dreaming and that no one would pay such a price for vegetables. But to their surprise, the famous girl had already placed her order, and some of his regular customers even rushed to buy cucumbers. When the older sister saw this, she thought it was all an act and decided to eat one to expose his trick. But she didn't know that these cucumbers were unlike any other. After eating one, she felt like she had become a famous TV presenter, and she was completely shocked.